In this video, we will be looking at a coronal CT of the chest with a mediastinal window. This means that the structures within the mediastinum will show up white on this image set. Before watching this video, review what structures are located in this area of the body and think about what structures you should expect to see in this image set. We will be looking at large structures such as the aorta, heart, lungs, etc. Before we start, here's a reminder of what a coronal plane is, showing us the orientation of images we will be looking at in this image set. And I'm just going to circle it very quickly here in blue. Let's go ahead and get started and look at the first slice of our image set. I want to point out a few important concepts using this first image. First, can you tell if we are starting on the anterior or posterior side of the body? You don't even have to know any anatomy, just look at this marker in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that I just circled in green. This image marked A means that the image set starts on the anterior side of the body. Next, we can see some distinct white structures, I'll outline those in yellow very quickly, and some distinct green structures, which I'll just circle one or two of them in red right now. You should know by now that bone shows up white on all the CT images we have looked at. Therefore, we can see the sternum and the xiphoid process. And I'll just label the sternum with an S and the xiphoid process with an X. The gray structures connected to the sternum aren't bony ribs, but actually costal cartilage. On the right is a cartoon reference picture of the structures we have looked at, showing you that the costal cartilage is attached to the bony portion of the rib as well as the sternum. Now let's start scrolling through some more images until we hit a significant landmark to identify. Here's something starting to come into view in the thoracic cavity. Think about what the structure could be while we scroll through some more images until it becomes a little more defined. This new structure coming into view is the heart, and we're starting to see the left ventricle right now, which I'll outline quickly here in blue. A few more structures will start coming into view in the next few slides. Let's stop here and identify some structures. We can still see the left ventricle, which I'll label here in blue once more, and the ascending aorta attached to it, and I'll outline that in purple. Next will be the right atrium, I'll circle that in green right here, and the pulmonary trunk, I'll circle that in yellow. Just to review, we have the left ventricle in blue, ascending aorta in purple, right atrium in green, and pulmonary trunk in yellow. In a few more slides, I'll point out how you can identify the green structure as the right atrium with the help of another structure we'll actually see in a couple more slides. So keep your eye on the right atrium as we scroll through the next couple of images. If you haven't noticed, we've also cut through the lungs as we can see lots of dark spaces with just traces of air represented by some white dots. And I'll just outline a couple of those in red right now. You can see them scattered throughout the lungs. We aren't yet posterior enough to see the trachea and bronchi, so think about how those images will look once we find them. Will they show up white or black on these images? We can now see the superior vena cava connected to the right atrium, confirming that we correctly identified that chamber of the heart a few slides ago. I'll quickly outline the superior vena cava in purple right here, and then circle again the right atrium in green. In this slide, the arch of the aorta becomes more clear, which I'll circle here in red, as well as some arteries that branch from it, most notably the brachiocephalic trunk, which I'll outline here in blue, and the left common carotid artery, and I'll outline that in yellow. Here, I want to point out some structures I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the trachea and the primary bronchi. Now they show up black due to the air inside of them, which makes them a little hard to see on this image, but I'll go ahead and outline them for you right now in this light blue color. That'll make it a little bit easier to see the boundaries. You can see the primary bronchi branch further into the lungs, so with the same color, I'm just going to outline a little more. The trachea and primary bronchi have disappeared, but a new structure has come into view that we will continue to see in the next few slides. I'll just quickly circle that in blue right now. The structure we just circled is the descending aorta. The descending aorta starts to disappear now as we see more of the thoracic vertebra come into view. We've now passed by all of the major structures of the thorax and mediastinum and have a great view of the thoracic vertebrae. The last thing I will be pointing out in this image set is the vertebral canal, which we'll see in a few more slides. I'll be scrolling relatively quickly now since there isn't much more to see here. Here is a great view of the vertebral canal and the spinal cord, and I'll outline the spinal cord quickly in blue. And that concludes this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful.